Welcome to my channel, Garden to Table with Rose. In this video we're going to talk about vermiculture or worm composting, basically making worm poo as a fertilizer for your garden. Today's cocktail is a jalapeno lime shrub, which I've also never had before, but it's really good. It's pretty tasty. I like it. Alright, so gardening and cocktails, that's a very bizarre combination. So I am Rose. I am the host of Garden to Table with Rose. So let's get into the video. What is vermicomposting exactly? What is it? Why? Why? Well, you know, one thing, well, let me make a disclaimer first of all. I am not an expert in anything that I talk about. So, I just got into gardening recently, actually during lockdown, because I was stuck in my house with nothing else to do all last summer. So I decided to dig up garden beds in my backyard. I live in a subdivision. I live in southwestern Michigan. Last frost date here is about May 15th, according to the calculators, but I usually set that about May 1st. May 1st. So here we are in mid-March right now, and the ground has thawed, so it's able to be worked. I am busy doing cleanup, as most gardeners are. Also planting fruit trees as they come in. I've ordered many fruit trees, dwarf fruit trees, and planting grapevines. And I just planted peas last night because it's mid-March and it's that time. So I am very busy these days. I have been composting since I started my garden last summer, and I've been using composting bins. I found that I typically like the tumbler ones because you can mix up the stuff, and that seems to help it, you know, decompose a little bit quicker. I have several of those around my yard. I was researching composting and fertilizers, and I came upon worm castings. That's huge in the gardening world, it seems. You can buy worm castings, and I have purchased them. I've never actually used them. This is only my really first full season of gardening, and so this bag of worm castings, oh, there's one of my huskies. I have 3 huskies, and right now they want to walk through the video. Yeah. Luca, move it. Move it. Move it. Okay. So a bag, which is, this bag is 12 pounds. I think it was about $15, something like that, at the Tractor Supply. I think that's where I got this from. Move it, Bella. Get out of the camera. Oh my God, they're like awesome photo bombers. Anyway, so it's not super expensive, but you know, if you have a big enough garden, this isn't really going to cover a lot. So if you can make your own, that would be a little bit more practical. And so I started researching this in terms of where it came from, how you get it, how can you make it, and I found out that you can create this on your own. Worm castings are basically worm poop. Worm casting sounds a lot better, but it's basically worm poop. And so I purchased a system that was already, you know, pre-made. All the stuff you need to start except for the worms and the food scraps came with it. That was more convenient for me because right now, like I said, we're in the beginning of the gardening season and cleanup and all that stuff, and I don't have time for another DIY project. You could make one yourself. I think, you know, you can use totes, like those plastic bins, totes, and stack them and make them on your own. But, yeah, I didn't have time for that. So I bought mine. And I bought it off of Amazon, and really I didn't do a lot of research on this, just enough to kind of figure out what I was doing because, like I said, I got a lot of stuff on my plate. This one was rated Amazon's Choice. You know, I tend to go by the ratings. It had a lot of good ratings. It was like right under $100. I mean, obviously if you made your own with totes and basically a drilling holes in them and stacking them some kind of way, it would be super cheap, but I was willing to pay the price. And you know, this system will last me hopefully for many years, so it shouldn't be too much of a loss. Actually, it should be a plus in terms of cost benefit. Okay, that there are some things that you are going to need. One is cocoa coir. That tends to be used as a base by a lot of these systems. So I have a big bucket of cocoa coir that I've pre-hydrated, and then you're supposed to mix in some kind of real soil. So I think you can use, you know, garden soil or whatever. I chose to use composted manure. If you already had earthworm castings or your own compost pile or something like that, chicken poo, if you have chickens, whatever you have, you can use it. Now mind you, I live in a subdivision, so let's put that out there. I do not live on a farm. I am not a farmer. Again, this is my first full garden this season, so I am not an expert, and I have a small space to work in. I have about a little under half an acre, my total lot, and that includes my house. Now my house is small, it's a ranch house, and I'm sitting on my deck. So most of my lot is grass, and so I have dug up, I would say about a third of my backyard so far is garden beds, and then I actually have a number of trees coming in, fruit trees, dwarf fruit trees, of course, because I have a small lot that I'm gonna plant in the backyard. So really, there won't, by the time I'm done, there'll only be a quarter of actual grass, usable grass, and I need that because, as you saw, I have huskies. I have 3 huskies, 3. So they complicate the situation a little bit, but you know, we're making it work. So I got my cocoa coir along with my composted manure that I buy in bags from your home store. It's like $2 a bag, but let me tell you, I have purchased so much of this stuff, and this is one of the reasons why I'm composting. I have purchased, oh my gosh, at least 80 bags from last summer until now, because once I dug up my beds, I had to condition the soil. So I've been using a lot of that just to mix in with the native soil here, to get it, you know, nutrient dense. So I've been buying so many bags, and I'm so tired of loading these bags into my car and then having to bring them home, then having to unload them. I mean, it would just be really convenient to have my own compost piles. Now, with my compost tumblers, let me tell you, I have seen all kinds of advertisements for different tumblers and bins that says, you know, basically you can have compost in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. That's BS. Let me tell you. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 different compost bins right now. Different kinds, different styles. From one that I created myself with fencing in my backyard to ones that I've purchased that spin, ones that are just big bins that don't spin. And I will tell you, it takes 6 to 9 months to get a batch of compost to be usable. And that's with a compost starter, which I tend to buy and use, which I don't know what it is. I guess some kind of enzymes or microbes. But they sell it in bags at the home store, at the garden center. And so that's even with that. So it takes a long time to make compost. And given that I'm just starting, I don't have a ready supply. So another reason why I wanted to start with a worm composting is because it's supposed to be a little bit faster. So it's supposed to be 3 to 6 months. We will see. I don't know. I also like a variety of fertilizers. You know, I like a variety of foods in general. So I figure plants probably like a variety of food as well. So I use my regular hot compost that I make in my tumblers, etc. Heap. I'm going to use this worm compost. I use fish emulsion. I use like bagged fertilizers. I use the compost tea that comes. I have a collection system on one of my bins where it collects the tea, so I dilute that. I use that as fertilizer. I was really hopeful because when I first started reading, they talked a lot about worm compost tea, and a lot of the sites and salesmen will lead you to believe that you can just like use the runoff from the worm compost bin to make a fertilizer, by just diluting it and using it. And once I started researching, I realized that's not true. That comes off of this bin is called leachette, I believe, and it is not something that you want to use on food crops. It contains microbes that aren't present in a typical compost bin because that heats up. It gets really hot. When you have a compost heap or a tumbler, that thing gets hot, like steaming hot. But this does not. So this stuff is not stuff you want to use on anything you want to eat. You can use it on flowers and stuff like that if you dilute it. So what I have decided I'm going to do with it, because I don't like to waste stuff, some of it in my regular compost bins as kind of an activator to kind of get things going, since there's microbes in there, and the regular compost gets so hot I think it will kill off anything bad, and then I'll dump the rest. So you can't really use that. Now you can make a compost tea out of the worm compost, and I'll probably cover that in another video. But basically you take your finished compost and you steep it in water, and you can use a bubbler, like a fish aquarium bubbler, for so long, and then you have a worm compost tea that you can then dilute and use as a fertilizer. So I'll probably try that too, because I find all these little things fascinating, so I'm trying everything. So this is long. I'm gonna have to edit this video. Woo! So I'm trying to keep all my videos under 15 minutes because people have short attention spans. They don't want to watch anything that's going on forever. Anyway, so that's my my cocoa core mixture. I also have worms. So I found this company just on Amazon, and then I went to the actual company's website, and I'll try to put links for all the websites for all of this in the description box. So Uncle Jim's Worm Farm, they apparently are huge in the worm vermiculture business. I never heard of them until I decided to get this bin, but their names popped up and they seem to be one of the biggest ones. So I ordered this bag of 2,000 red wiggler worms. Now you can't just use worms out of your garden. No, you have to have special worms. There are probably 3 different types I think that I saw listed that you could use, but red wigglers are one of the most common types. Oh, and this stinks. This smells bad. But anyway, the ordering process was really cool. This company shipped it really quickly within a couple of days. I think it was about $60, $65 for 2,000 worms. That included the shipping fee, which is like $10 or something like that. So that's a lot for worms. Given that you see them all over in your backyard, it seems like they wouldn't cost so much, but they do. So hopefully these worms are still alive. Hopefully they're still kicking. They were delivered to me on Thursday evening. It is now Saturday morning, and allegedly these are supposed to be able to stay alive for 10 days total. So if you count 3 or 4 days in shipping, I let them sit for 1.5 days. When I got them, there was this instruction sheet that came with it that was pretty clear and simple. Basically, if you couldn't put them in something right away, they wanted you to add a half a cup of water, I think it was, and a tablespoon of either oats, like oatmeal, or cornmeal. So I did that once the same night I got them, and I've had them sitting in this little container waiting for me to plant them. And here we are, Saturday morning. And by the way, it's a brisk morning. It's supposed to be in the high 50s today, which is a wonderful thing in Michigan. It's extremely cold still. Our last frost date isn't until May 15th. So here we are. We're in the middle of March. So the overnights are freezing. I mean, we're talking in the 20s last night. So they're below the freezing mark. And so you really can't put out any plants because it's just too cold. So I'm in the process of growing a lot of seedlings indoors. Like I said, I just planted peas last night because they're seeds, so it's going to take a couple weeks for those probably to sprout and grow a bit, and so they like cool weather. It should be good. Okay, so I got my worms. You're also going to need, let me get my cattail. No, I dropped that. You're also going to need food scraps. I have a bag here. Now, from what I have researched, again, I have never done this. So, all of this is stuff I read on the internet or saw on a YouTube video, to be honest. So, from what I researched, you want to take your food scraps, vegetable and fruits, but you want them to be pretty small pieces because they have to start to break down, like by the microbes in the dirt, before the worms can eat them, because worms don't have teeth, right? So I chop mine up, which I don't usually do. I mean, I compost. Like I said, I have several compost bins. I usually keep a big bucket with a lid, and I just put all my food scraps in there. When the bucket gets full, I take it to my compost bin. But for the worms, I thought smaller pieces seemed like a good idea, and that would cause me to hopefully have compost sooner rather than later. That would speed up the process. So I chopped up all my little bits and pieces. You can put it in a food processor blender. I'm not going through all that. I'm not dirtying up all my food processor parts and having to wash all that just to chop up some stuff that I was going to throw out. So I just chopped it up. This is pretty much salad ends and pieces. I try to eat a salad every day. I don't always succeed, but I try to do it every day just to be healthy. So this is like lettuce, bell peppers, cucumbers, and then there's broccoli in here too, cabbage, carrots. I think that's about it for this particular batch. And we can go over what you can put in and what you can't, because there's a nice little cheat sheets that they gave you. You're also, from what I've collected on the internet, gonna need shredded up newspaper or some kind of paper. You could use newspaper, you could use brown paper, just a paper. You could use cardboard, but you have to kind of make it into small pieces so it can decompensate quicker. You're gonna mix this in, I think, with the food, or mix it into the dirt or something like that. It's the brown matter. If you know anything about composting, you need green matter and brown matter. The green matter is your food scraps, like your fruits and vegetables. The brown matter is stuff like leaves, paper, cardboard, toilet paper rolls, paper towel rolls, stuff like that. So I just cut it up. I don't have a shredder. If you had like a paper shredder, you could use that. Don't use anything that's glossy or that has a lot of colored ink in it. So I use newspaper. I actually get a print newspaper. I know nobody does that anymore, but I get it like 2 days a week, and so I always save it. And that's what I have in here. I've cut it up. And by the way, yeah, if you have a shredder, use it, because I'm telling you, cutting it with scissors is a workout for the hands, especially if you're my age and you have arthritis in the hands. Okay. I also have just some newspaper sheets, because I think I'm going to need this to line the bottom of one of the bins, at least. I think. I'm not sure. We haven't gotten to the instruction manual yet, so we're winging it. But I think so. I got my water hose in case I need to wet something down. Oh, there's another husky inside. I don't think she wants to come out. Okay, so I just basically took this out of the box. This is the system, and I think it's called Vermihut Plus. I'll let you know once I open it up and get the instruction manual. But I think this is called the Vermihut Plus. I got it on Amazon. It was one of their highly rated systems. Like I said, you can make this for a lot cheaper. I spent $100 for this, but I didn't have time to make one because I got a lot of projects going on, and this was not a priority project. Okay, so I pretty much took it out of the box and took the plastic off of it. There was a couple of pieces of plastic, but I pretty much left it as is so that I could go through it here. And so that this video could be unscripted. Too funny. Okay. This is like a, I'm assuming, coconut core mat. Now, from what I have gathered just from the description online, this can be used either to insulate your bin in cold weather. So you would put it on top of whatever you got going on to keep the worms a little bit cozier, more insulated. And it can also be used, I think, for odors and maybe for insects to keep them from getting in because of the smell, right, of the decomposing food. So this was there, and I think this, there's a plus of what is it, Vermiculture Plus, and then there's a regular one. The Plus has this thing as one of the additives, one of the perks, and then I think there's some like little feet to keep ants away. I'm not sure. I'll let you know. Okay, so then we have this little plastic piece. I think this is the screen to keep the ants, I mean not ants, the worms from going through into the bottommost section. That's what I think this is for. I'm guessing. Okay. And then, ooh, I hope my battery doesn't go dead. I'm taking forever to go through this, man. What the heck? I thought this would be like a 12-minute video. Okay. I might have to stop it and change the battery. Okay, this little sheet, I think, again, I think, this is to place on top of the worms when you first put it together to keep them from trying to escape. From what I've read, when you first put your worms in, they're going to try to escape and get out because it's a foreign environment. They're like all nervous and like anxious, so they try to climb out. And this, I think, is supposed to keep them in because you don't put the lid on, you just put this, and then they don't like light. Worms don't like light, so they try to run from the light. So if you just put this and you don't have the lid on, your light from outside will shine on it, or you can put a light over it, like put it in a lighted room, and hopefully that'll keep them from getting out. That's what I think this is for. Don't quote me on that though. Okay, this is the lid. I know that for a fact, so that's a handle. So this is your lid, and it has holes drilled all around it. I'm sure for oxygen, because worms need oxygen. Shoot. Alright, so these are the little bits and bobbles that came inside of it. This is called the Vermitech. Sorry, I didn't even know the name of it. Vermihut Plus Worm Bin. So it has a user manual here, which is nice. It has that black and white pictures, illustrates exactly what you're supposed to do. So this we'll keep this to the side because that's going to be important. Vermitech Plus. Now, like I said, there's, I guess, the original and the Plus, which has a few extra perks. One of which are these ant things. Now, from what I read, you're supposed to put these on the feet at the bottom level and put a little water in it, and it's supposed to keep ants from climbing into it. Of course, the issue with that, though, is that it could attract mosquitoes because standing water tends to attract mosquitoes, flies, stuff like that. So we'll see. I won't use these initially. We will see if I need them as the season goes on. All right, so we'll put those to the side. There's a cup, a little plastic cup. I think this is to collect the leachate that comes out in the bottom. There's a bottom level that has a little spigot that you can attach and to drain that liquid off so it doesn't overflow. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Cup. Alright, now I am not sure what this is, why they included this. This to me looks like row cover material. Like this is what I use when I plant my seedlings. I usually will cover them with row covers to keep bugs from attacking them while they're still young, and then I take the row covers off once they're mature and I feel like they can fend for themselves. So it's like that material, or if you sew, it's like interfacing. That's what row cover material is like. It's like a fabric interfacing, but much more expensive. So I don't know if this is supposed to go, maybe, I'm thinking, I don't know, on this bottom sheet to keep the worms from going through into the leachate basin. I can only think that that's what it's for. It's like a netting. I don't know. We'll see if they talk about this in the instruction manual. So it came with 2 pieces of this stuff. So okay, we got that. There's a spigot, which obviously we're going to need that for the bottom level to drain off our leachate. It came with this cool magnet. I think this is pretty awesome because it's a quick visual of what you can and cannot feed the worms. So, worm composting diet. You can add vegetables, fruit, coffee grounds, tea leaves, eggshells, dried leaves, grasses, cardboard paper. Limit rice, citrus fruit, bread, tomatoes, cakes, potatoes. Avoid meat, eggs, fishes, dairy, bones, pet waste. So it's very similar to regular composting, except you want to limit the citrus in like onions, garlic. I don't think you want to put a lot of that in with the worms. They don't like it. I think it makes their environment acidic. So you want to limit those kinds of things. So I won't be putting any citrus peelings or anything like that in with the worms. I won't be putting any onions or garlic. I'll save those for my regular compost bins. So this is magnetized, so you could stick this somewhere on your refrigerator, wherever. A lot of people put these things inside of their house, like in their kitchen or whatever. I am not putting no bin full of worms up in my house. No. Nope. 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 Ain't gonna happen. So during the cold season, my bin will be in my garage, protected from the elements, and then during the warm season I'm going to find a shady spot in my backyard, somewhere close to the house, because you know I have my gutters and all that overhang and offer some shade close to the house. So I will set it out in one of those areas during the warmer temperatures. I think the worms prefer temperatures between 55 and 70. I might be off on that, but they like it like room temperature in your house. So I'm going to put this in my garage because it is still cold here, especially at night. Right now it's probably 40 degrees and it's probably about noon now. I don't even have on a watch. It's probably about noon now. So it's supposed to be in the 50s today, but like I said, the overnights are like 20. It's cold. So this is awesome. I kind of like that. They gave me a doggone spatula. I don't know why. I think it's supposed to help. Maybe stirring things up. It's a silicone spatula. So that's included. And a rake. Well, this makes sense. I guess you can rake through to mix things up and to separate things as you choose to. So those came in with the worm bin. Also, which I was pretty impressed, I didn't think this would come with it. They give you a brick of coconut coir, and this basically is like the ground up outside of a coconut, but it's eco-friendly. It's an unlimited supply because coconuts. So this is a 1.5 pound brick, and these things come in these compressed bricks, and you add water and you let it sit, and I mean it expands like several times its amount. I did not use this because I already have coconut coir core. I use it for growing mushrooms and some other things, so I already had some of it, so I just didn't open this. But it comes in it, so like literally all you will need is your food scraps, your worms, and some newspaper probably. So that's that. Oh goodness, I've been talking too much. I'm getting parched. Oh, this is good. Jalapeno lime shrub. Awesome. Okay, so these little bins, there are, good lord, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. 5, which is a good amount. I assume you can stack them. You can stack them all the way up to 5. I don't know why you would need to do that. If you have a working garden, you probably will be using this as soon as it's complete, because it takes 3 to 6 months. So I anticipate that as soon as I have a bin of worm compost that's complete, worm castings, I will be using that somewhere in my garden. So I would probably never need more than 2. I mean, you need at least 2, because you need one that's your active bin, and then once that dirt turns like black, like dark and rich, and all the food particles are gone, and you're ready to use it as a compost, you're going to need a second one to give your worm somewhere to go to get them out of that bin so you can use it. So they travel upwards through the holes to look for food, apparently. So these came stacked together. They can be kind of hard to separate. I think when I was reading the reviews, somebody else mentioned that sometimes they can be so compressed in each other that it's hard to pull them apart. So so there's those, and then finally this is the base where the leachate collects and that you're supposed to drain off. There's a hole here. I'm gonna just assume that this little, I'm trying to speed this up, this little, oh, what do I have going on here? There's a washer. There's 2 washers. I'm going to assume this little spigot goes on the end of that. So I'm going to put that together, because, you know, who needs instructions? So, okay. So put the spigot in. It has 2 washers. Put one on the outside of the spigot, one on the inside of the spigot. There's a little nut that goes on the end, and I, you know, simply screw that on until it's hand tightened. It's plastic, so I wouldn't use any tools, just hand tighten it. Okay, so that's done. So you got a little spigot for draining off the liquid if it should happen to fill up. From what I read, though, if you use what you're supposed to use in terms of browns and greens, and you don't overfeed the worms, you shouldn't have too much of the liquid. There shouldn't be a lot of it to drain off. So we'll see. We're going to start conservatively. Okay, so let's go through the manual. Oh, I looked up vermicomposting because I wanted an official definition to provide. So according to Wikipedia, because we know they're always 100% accurate, it says vermicompost is the product of the decomposition process using various species of worms, usually red wigglers, white worms, and other earthworms, to create a mixture of decomposing vegetable or fruit waste, bedding material, and vermicast. This process is called vermicomposting, while the rearing of worms for this purpose is called vermiculture. Vermicast, also called worm castings, worm humus, worm manure, or worm feces, is the end product of the breakdown of organic material by earthworms. These castings have been shown to contain reduced levels of contaminants and a higher saturation of nutrients than the organic materials before vermicomposting. Okay, so basically they're saying it's a really good fertilizer. Okay, so we got the basin spigots, which I've attached that. Then it says place the white worm saver tray on top of the base, which again is this thing. Put that on top, fits in there nicely. And then place one of the trays on top of the worm saver. Now, you know, on the parts list, it does not include that white row cover stuff. I'm going to put this here because I am using my intuition, and my intuition says that this must be to keep worms from going through. It's a little big. I'll fold it in half. I mean, I can't imagine what else we would use this for. Fold the end in because I don't want it sticking out. Okay, so I have a nice level of that. Okay, now let's just place one of the trays on top of the worm saver tray. Oi there. Oh, okay. Now I have one of the trays. Okay, that's all we need to start. I am going to put newspaper in here because from what I read online, you don't want your worms to get out of these holes. There's holes in the bottom that are big enough for them to get through because each tray is the same and they can climb up to the next tray through these holes. So I don't want them to be landing on this level at all. So I'm going to put my newspaper as some kind of barrier. I mean, you know, it's not going to complete, it's going to decompensate as well, but I think it'll help with little sheets of it just as a base. Okay, and then it says place the lid on. Okay, like literally that's it. That's so easy. But like I said, when you're starting up, I think there's a little bit, it's a little bit more complex. Okay, so startup. When your worms arrive, you're ready to prepare a home for your worms. It is important your worms have a proper home in order for you to get the most out of your system. Follow these steps, yada yada yada. Okay, the startup consists of three parts: preparing the bedding, transferring the bedding to the first tray, and adding worms. Okay, the bedding, you will need a block of coconut coir, which I showed you. I have my coconut coir, 4 to 5 gallon container to hydrate it, garden soil, shredded newspaper, no colored ink if you can get it, or plain white paper, cardboard, egg cartons, crushed eggshells, and or dried leaves or grass. So I already have my compost mixed in here with my coconut coir, so I don't need to worry about all that hydrating and doing all of that. Oh, now here with the setup, they tell you to take the first tray and line the bottom with a piece of cardboard or 4 to 5 pieces of dry newspaper. So I'm ahead of the game. I did that already. Okay, transfer and spread the bedding mixture into the tray. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Ooh. And I hydrated this. I don't think you want it like, you don't want it super wet. You want it moist, but not like super wet. I'm not really sure how much even you want in here. Lucas, get out of the way, please. Oh, these dogs. But there's not a line that's just filled to here. But use your intuition. I mean, if you're into gardening or anything like that, you can just kind of figure this stuff out. I'm gonna fill it. See, what I'm thinking is, once you put the second tray in, you kind of want it to touch it, right? Because you need the worms to be able to get up into the second one. So I'm thinking about halfway. About halfway or a little over halfway is what I'm doing. So I put it halfway full of the dirt mixture. Now I'm going to add in some of this newspaper because it just seems like it's a good idea. I think you need to stir that up in there. Put a handful of food at the corner of the bedding and cover the food with bedding. Okay, so you're going to put a handful of food. And by the way, This food that I've chopped up extra small, I'm going to keep this gallon bag in one of my freezers so that I have a ready supply of food. And also when you freeze it, it causes it to break down, I think, a little bit faster. So don't put a lot, because I think the worms has to actually kind of get used to their environment, you know. So you don't want to put a lot, because they probably won't necessarily eat a lot initially. So I put a couple of handfuls, and then it said to cover it with some bedding. So I put a little newspaper, and then I'm going to put a little bit of my coconut coir and compost mixture. Now, I would recommend, if you're going to be hands-on, you might want to use gloves for this. I did not use gloves because I have tools, I have shovels, I have this little rake they gave me, so I didn't feel like I really needed gloves. Okay, so you want it to be moist. When you squeeze a handful of the fibers, only a drop or two of water should drip out and the bedding holds together like a snowball, which is the same as when you're planting seedlings, so you want it kind of that moist. So I'm going to leave it like this. Ooh, get that, the worms next. This is the exciting part. Ooh, so it says, place the worms, including the bedding they were shipped in, on top of all of this. Put a couple of sheets of newspaper on top of that. Spray the underside of the newspaper with water, and then put that plastic sheet on it. I'm just gonna drop them in there, and then I'm gonna put that clear top on it, and then I'm gonna leave this sit here until evening. It's supposed to be close to 60 today, so it should be pretty good. And it's in the shade. I might move it to the sun. I think that'll get it a little warmer, because they like about 65, 70. And then I'll move it into my garage when the evening comes. Oh my gosh, y'all. There are like a bunch of skinny worms. Oh, they're moving all around, and they're skinny. They're like really skinny. According to the instructions, they're supposed to plump up once they start eating and stuff. But this stinks. Oh my god. I don't know what they're in, or if it's the worms, but they smell bad, man. Okay. Here we go. Oh yeah, I'm not touching them. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, this is gross. Oh my god, there's so many of them, and they're moving all around. Oh. Lord help me. Okay. Oh my god. Oh, this is gross. I don't even like bugs. What the heck? I mean, I can deal with worms because I know they help the dirt when you're gardening. They aerate the soil, etc., etc. But, oh, I hope that's all of them, because I am not sticking my hand up in there. And I think I dropped one. I dropped some on this newspaper. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's gross. Get out of my drink. Okay. Seriously, people. I am going to, because I don't even want to look at that. I'm just going to put this whole thing right here. And then they said to wet it. Wet it! Okay. I got my water hose. So we're supposed to wet this a little bit. It's wet. And then put this clear thing on it. And they don't want you to put the other lid on it. I'm just putting this, because you're trying not to get the dang on worms to come out. No, maybe I should fold this down up under there. Okay, y'all, that grossed me out, y'all. Seriously, I'm not a bug person. Okay, it's done. I did it. Ooh, there's stuff coming off of it. There's stuff running off of it. Okay, so that's it. Now it says let this sit out, you know, in light for 3 or 4 days so that the worms get settled into their home and they don't try to escape. They want freedom. And then I guess after that I will put this lid on there. But like I said, at night when the sun starts to set, I'm going to move this into my garage so it can stay a little bit warmer. I don't want the worms to freeze to death, especially after spending $65 on them. So that's what I'm going to do. And you know, I'm going to keep you updated on the progress of this worm bin and what happens with it. They're supposed to multiply like crazy, and they're supposed to be intuitive, so they slow down reproduction if their surroundings don't accommodate the numbers. So I'm very excited to see where this is going to go. I'm wanting a constant supply of this compost in addition to my regular compost to just feed my garden, to feed my food crops. And so again, if you enjoyed this video or found it mildly entertaining, please click the thumbs up, the like button, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming. My plan is to drop 1 video a week on Wednesdays, and so hopefully we will continue the story, the saga. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.